since it's season, this is something I feel like people are not talking about enough. And by enough, people are not talking about this. Every time I mention this to someone, it's like a revelation to them. He what? He sings? He has music? Wait, he was in the Twilight? He was singing in Twilight? Hi everyone, it's Jade from Polymath Library. Robert Pattinson has one of the most angelic voices I've ever heard. And on top of that, he can play the piano, the guitar, and God knows what other instruments, I don't know. I need to get out my notes. This is serious. And what perfect timing, because Robert Pattinson, I think they just kind of did a little unofficial pregnancy announcement with Suki Waterhouse, which I've never listened to her music. I just know her name. I don't really know who she is. I think I'm gonna have to give it a little listen. So let me know if you are a Suki Waterhouse fan. I think Twilight was the best and worst thing to ever happen to this man. Because as the legend goes, nobody hates Twilight more than Robert Pattinson hates Twilight. I mean, we could also go down a rabbit hole right now of his interviews during that era. Today's video is titled Robert Pattinson's Music and Learning to Yearn Again. Cue the Seinfeld meme. Do you yearn? Do you yearn? And that's what we're gonna uncover today, because yeah, I could just tell you about Robert Pattinson's music, but you could also do your own little YouTube deep dive, which I strongly encourage you to do after watching this video, of course. It's time to talk about this. And it's the thing also with these Sufjan videos that I was doing, those are pent up opinions, emotions, thoughts, and feelings I have had for the last 15 years that no one gave a fuck to listen about, because no one, no one cares, right? In real life. That's why we have the internet, so we can have our weird little obsessions on the internet. Also, I'm dedicating this video to the younger version of myself who sat on school buses in the dark at 6 a.m. listening to her iPad. No, we didn't even have iPads then. It was an iPod. Tired beyond belief, listening to my iPod, yearning for what could be in the future. Yeah. I needed to get on that school bus at an ungodly hour, and I would just listen to my podcasts were barely even a thing then, okay? I'm dating myself. But listening to, actually I had, that was when it took a day to download. No, okay, messing up the timelines. By the time I was in high school, podcasts were a thing. When I was in middle school, when Lost came out, see, I'm actually really dating myself. I found on Apple, the Apple iTunes store, there was I was looking for free music, and that's how I found podcasts. And there was one for Lost, and they did an episode every week after the episode came out. Genius idea back then, really. They were in tune with the times, I guess, or they were ahead of their times, but it would take literally a day to download a 30-minute 1-hour podcast. Crazy. I also had Lost memes saved to my iPod Nano, the one that was white and this big, but they weren't memes. I don't know if you guys remember that. I had hundreds of them saved to my computer. I had files. But I'm dedicating this video to that version of myself who just was hopeful for the future, wanting to just escape and move on to something else, and music would be my a gateway at that time to just escape. I hated school, but for example, listening to Sufjan or Bright Eyes, or at the time religious drama, I was listening to the cool Christian bands. That's a video for another time. Yeah, this is for her, and I don't feel like people talk about this enough, which is that Robert Pattinson has about 8 songs. I mean, he didn't post any of them. They're like bootlegs from when he would play live. I don't even know where he was performing this music. Twilight has one of the best film soundtracks of there's a bug of all time, space, universe, time continuums, quantum physics. The Twilight soundtrack, especially that first one. I may be getting the first and second mixed up. Because can I tell you, when Twilight came out, as a teenager living in Seattle who had grandparents in Port Angeles, which is like either on the way to Forks or just, I think it's on the way to Forks. And that soundtrack, I was sitting there in the theater with my friends, like, thinking, should this movie be making me feel so much? Just like when Bella gets out of her little pickup truck and like her dad's at home, this and the fog and the grainy color. It's like it's what that area feels like. Say what you will about Twilight, the series, whatever, the spin-offs. It was a mood, it was a vibe, it was like it just captured it. And this, I don't know how they got that soundtrack. Who did they have to pay to get that kind of soundtrack? Like Rosalie, this Bon Iver, and I think Saint Vincent was on one. Like I also, this is not a Twilight video. I'm not even like into Twilight that much. I mean, I read all the books. I think I only saw the first movie, maybe the second, because by then I had aged out when the other movies were coming. This is not about Twilight, okay? But Twilight did launch this, so it's a very big piece of the lore. The Twilight soundtrack is no joke, and on that soundtrack, Robert Pattinson has 2 songs. So that there's the Twilight soundtrack. On top of that, before Twilight, Robert Pattinson starred in one of my favorite indie movies of all time. That movie like shaped me. I don't even know how I found it, and it's called How to Be. And basically he's like a young 20-something. He's working like at a grocery store. He's miserable there. He gets kicked out of where he's volunteering because he's just so like depressed or melancholy. And I think that's one of the lines. He's like, I think I'm depressed. Is he, now that I'm like uncovering the memories from this time, I used to know so many quotes, I can't remember them anymore. But his friend in the movie was like one of my favorite characters also. And it's one of the also few movies that he has his accent in. I feel like he always has an American accent, which is a shame because his voice is like, and now he's a daddy. And I think it's like this same assumption that many people assume because he's like, we can just say objectively, he's like hot, right? That's objective to me. I think it's this assumption that like hot people can't be smart, funny, or nice. I mean, I always think that I'm like, if someone's like gorgeous, I'm like, oh, they must have no personality, right? It's like, yeah. People just assume since he made the decision to be in Twilight, which is, Twilight, that he's like, it's like his fault he was in that. But, apparently he didn't know what he was getting into. I believe that. But just listen to one of his songs, like, to roam. Not like to the city, but to roam around. I can just imagine being in like a random pub in the UK somewhere, and you go in and there's this guy playing guitar, singing, and just like being amazed and be like, wow, does he have a CD I can buy? This kind of thing. Robert Pattinson does not have any music we can buy. You need to, make your own playlist on YouTube, or as I did in the early aughts, is download the MP3s to your iPod. We have 8 songs by him. One of them is just a beautiful piano piece with no voice, but it's gorgeous. That might also have been for Twilight. 2 he wrote and recorded for the Twilight movie. They can be heard like ever so faintly in the background, and they're just like so short and quiet, but they just, they exist, and they feel so intangible, and like I need more because they're there but not fully. His voice is very low. It's this like lot of and it just ever so faintly in the background that is just, I want you just have the feeling like I need more of this. I want more of this. Where can I get more? And you can't really get more besides these bootleg other songs. It's so intangible. But I just, there's no possible world where you can just put on headphones and have the clear, crisp audio perfectly of him singing. And that is an injustice to everyone. That is, I think, a crime, a tragedy. It's something I have not been able to be restful in my spirit over the last 10 plus years. And as I re-listened to these songs before sitting down to record this, I felt some of the same feelings I did 15 years ago, and this is where we get into the second part of the title of this video, is learning to yearn again, because I don't yearn anymore. I don't have this feeling of just your whole heart and soul just being like expanded and obsessed with something. And it's not something that stopped all at once, but it was kind of like gradual over the years. But I've been thinking a lot about this lately as well, that I just don't yearn anymore. And as I mentioned, this Seinfeld meme, I remember being also in high school. I don't know, I think, there's this work of like healing your inner child. And I follow this creator on Instagram, and she talks a lot about also needing to heal your inner teenager. And I think that's where I am right now. I think I've spent maybe the last 10 years like working to heal my inner like child, but I never thought about healing my inner teenager. I think that's also like really, really important. I think that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And I think Sufjan releasing his album kind of helped with that. But yeah, there's that Seinfeld bit, do you yearn? And when I first heard that in high school, I was like, yes, I yearn, I do, I get this, I yearn. And now I feel like my heart and soul, for lack of a better word, have kind of closed off to these feelings. And there's a lot like packed behind that statement. And I don't mean this in a bad way either. I'm probably more happy now than I've ever been in my life, more stable, and just like content on a fundamental level. And I think part of this yearning was part of like such a fundamental, what's the opposite of contentment? Discontentment, where I just needed to be somewhere else doing something else. And people always say like, moving won't solve your problems. It does. I've done it twice. Okay, twice is not like, scientific method of fact and fiction, but you just know sometimes that you've got to get out and do something else. It's the same with getting a new job, or even moving neighborhoods, moving apartments, moving to a different part of the city, or a new city, or a different country. Moving to a different country really also healed me. That's also another different story for another time. So I'm more stable, more grounded now than I've ever been. And I hope I'm conveying the feeling that I'm talking about. It's like being adolescent and just feeling stuck. When you listen to an art, it's like it expands your world. And you're like, yes, this is like a piece of what I imagine for myself, like to have in the future. And I do kind of miss that longing feeling. I still love a pretty scenery. I love a beautiful sunset. It makes me feel something, but it doesn't make me feel as deeply as before. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's sad. I don't know. It's like this feeling where your heart has like shattered into a million pieces, and you're just like, yes. It hurts so beautifully. And maybe it's just because I'm, 30 now, over 30. I wouldn't say I'm in my 30s yet. I think you're in your 30s when it's like 33, 34. I think from 30 to 33, you can just be like, I'm 30. Maybe 31, 30, 31, 32. You can be like, I'm 30. Then it's like I'm in my 30s. Anyway, and I think this is one of the reasons why lately I've just loved watching Brittany Broski so much. She makes me laugh. And that girl yearns. That girl is a walking, talking Wattpad fan fiction writing machine. If you haven't watched her videos talking with AI, go watch her. I know she doesn't need the promo, but girlies supporting the girlies. She yearns, and she makes her obsessions our obsessions. And I love watching her love things. Like, never thought about these like masked, well, I don't even know what game they play, but these like masked characters. I don't give a fuck about that, but I just love watching her being obsessed with that because it brings back that feeling in me as well, but in a more like controlled, stable way, I guess, as well. And yeah, like, I'm now a mom. I have knocking on wood, a stable job, these kind of things, a stable living condition, knocking on wood. But as I said, things like Sufjan kind of releasing his album brought this back out in me, and it brought me down this rabbit hole. All of this is an explanation of why I wanted to talk about Robert Pattinson's music and the feeling that it gave me, because it's made me a little bit sad as well, because as much as I love Sufjan's album, I'm not as obsessed with it as I would have been maybe 10 years ago or 7 years ago. It's made me feel so much. I've cried to it multiple times. It's the perfect soundtrack for walking around in any weather. It's just not the same as it used to be. It reminds me of a poem, because I used to obsess about poetry as well. I used to just recite these poems to myself, these catchphrases from this poetry, because it also used to, it gave words to my feelings. And there's this one by Carl Sandburg. It's called Joy. And I used to live by this poem, and sometimes I still do quote it, which is why, I thought of it now. Okay, so let's do a poetry reading. Reach out your hand and take it when it runs by, as the Apache dancer clutches his woman. Or is it Apache? It's a French kind of dancing. I have seen them live long and laugh loud, sent on singing, smashed to the heart, under the ribs, with a terrible love. Joy always, joy everywhere. Let joy kill you! Exclamation point. Keep away from the little deaths. I can't tell you how many times I've written on the notebook or just recited to myself, let joy kill you, keep away from the little deaths. I've written songs about these two lines because it's like, yes, be so into the joy that it just tears you apart. You're tearing me apart. Joy will tear you apart. Yeah, let joy kill you. Keep away from the little deaths. Maybe this means I'm a healthier person now. That a piece of art doesn't completely shut down my world for weeks or months anymore. That's probably a good thing. But it's not also completely true. Let me say this. It's because I still have my obsessions, because you should have seen me during the Renaissance tour era. And the movie, we're still waiting on the movie, so it's still there. It was my personality for those few months Beyonce was touring. And me seeing her, painted my nails, got silver stuff to wear, waking up every morning to new outfits, or going to bed every night to new outfits, and just posting on my Instagram stories oh my god. But it still wasn't the same as I used to be. Maybe, I'm just thinking, maybe it's the time component. It's like this. It's like when you have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of money. When you have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of time. And maybe time was a big contributing factor to why I had so much I could put so much effort into really listening and feeling all of this. I could really feel out every single one of my emotions because I had the time to do that. I spent a lot of time alone as well, but the time I get alone now, it's very far and few between and very precious moments now, you know. It's like, do I cook myself a nice meal, or do I sit and read for an hour, or play this game for an hour, or, you know, do some tasks I need to get done that aren't like from my job related. Maybe time. Like more time, you can feel things. Time and adolescence, I think, contribute to yearning. Maybe that's the equation. Time plus adolescence equals yearning. So does this mean I don't enjoy things anymore with the same kind of wonder? How can I capture that feeling again of listening to music in my headphones, running home in a lightning storm at 5 a.m. in the summer, feeling everything in the world at once? Everything in the universe, because that did happen also. I left the party at like 4 or 5. I think we were just like drinking on someone's balcony till 4 or 5 in the morning, and then I decided to go home, but it was like a lightning storm, like really crazy. Like I should not have been outside, and the rain was just so heavy, and I just put in my headphones and I was listening. I don't remember what Sufjan song, but I was listening to Sufjan, just running through the rain and just feeling, because the sun, okay, I should have painted this story better, but in the summer here, the sun's like rising at 4:30, you know, so at 5 it's already like sunrise, and lightning storm at sunrise, and just listening to the music. Now, like, I wouldn't even go on my covered balcony in a lightning storm. That's also another component. Maybe I'm just, yeah, not living as like freely as I used to. I don't know. Maybe it was like the panini, being home all the time, suddenly like being like afraid you could get like sick if you go out, not knowing, conflicts that are happening in neighboring countries. Maybe just shit got really real. I don't know. I think my takeaway for now is that I just need to explore this new relationship I have with art and music, and kind of like meet myself where I am, accept to love it the way I love it now, and as I do in the present, that it's not right or wrong, it's not good or bad, it's not better or worse, it's just where I am right now. And also appreciate how far I've come from that girl sitting at 6 a.m. on a bus, hating life, listening to music, wishing for freedom and love and happiness and contentment and an exciting life. And I found all those things. Like, I did it. And now I can get like new goals and new dreams, and I know that I have the power to make those things happen. I don't need to sit and yearn anymore, because I can get up and do. I just thought about that for the first time. That's really interesting. At those times when I was so taken by the art, it's because I didn't feel like I had control over anything else in my life. And I really didn't have. I had very little to no control. At that age, you're not like grocery shopping for yourself. You're not buying clothes for yourself. You're told when and where to be, basically at all times. I mean, to varying degrees, you know. And now I get to choose all of those things. I'm so grateful, and I appreciate all the ways my life has changed. I think I also want to soften up my heart again a little bit more. If that makes sense, you know. It's been like a hard few years for everyone, I think, so maybe we all kind of need to do that. I don't know, is it just like, I want to know, is it just me? Do you have the same feeling? Can you relate? Like, how has your relationship with art changed as you get older? Or maybe you're still like in this adolescent age and maybe you can provide some like clarity, do some time traveling for me and tell me what it's like at that age, because I want to know again. You know, I have all my like my phone notes apps from that time, and sometimes I read them and I was like, wow, you were really going through it, girl. You really were. But yeah, maybe I need to find my childlike wonder again. I keep saying wonder, my childlike wonder again. And having a child, it's like even just my daughter started like jumping in the leaves, and I just felt my heart like opening and softening up again, and I'm like jumping in the leaves with her. There's also this clip, I'm gonna insert it now, the H3 podcast. They're talking about how kids can put the magic back into holidays again.
Yeah, you know, you did give me some hope, even when I do have kids, that maybe it will be sparked again.
Yes, man.
Exactly.
Get to work,
So
brother.
maybe start having kids. Me and Chantal are
again,
gonna
it's
pop
true.
a baby out.
It's so true that if you feel like your youth is like gone and you feel like you're in a black hole of misery, the best way to fill that hole, despite how ready you are or your financial situation or even the quality of your relationship,
Have a kid.
is to have kids
Yeah.
immediately.
There you go.
Yeah, if you're depressed and
Yeah.
unhappy with yourself,
Yeah.
definitely have kids.
And
Yep.
take everything out on them.
Dude, I'm gonna have the coolest fucking kid ever, too.
You will, bro.
Yeah, I could see that.
We've arrived at some conclusions. So we started with the premise of you should listen to Robert Pattinson's music if you haven't already, to why it's so good and because it makes me feel so much, and how I loved it and how it's like still on YouTube. I love these videos. You go back and it's like 15 years. So go listen. I'll maybe link to one of his, like someone made a playlist actually, so maybe I'll link to that. And if you want some music, if you like his singing and his playing and you want some music in the same genre, he actually had a friend named Bobby Long, playing music in the same genre, recorded in a studio, so you can listen with that headphone experience. So I recommend Bobby Long. There was a third, Marcus something. The three of them were friends, and I think the three of them wrote music together. Maybe even for Twilight, I don't know. So yeah, I recommend that. And if you like this video, please subscribe because, yeah, there's more thoughts like these coming. Yeah, it's not really like a music channel or a Sufjan channel, but I'm just kind of combing through my thoughts right now and just making videos about them. So if you enjoy this kind of like talking, then stick around. I love to have you. Every comment like lights up my heart with joy. So I'd love to hear from you. Let me know if you can relate to this. Yeah, thank you for listening. Go listen to some Robert Pattinson. Let me know what you're listening to. Is there something that's like reignited this feeling? You know, I also want to get into, she wrote Nebraska, Ethel Cain. I feel like it might be time for me to get into Ethel Cain. Enjoy your autumn and be well.